Has it started? America! My name is Osei-Frimpong. You're watching the Black Athenians. This is going to be a short little show, kind of a showlet. I'm going to just talk into the microphone because some of you might know I had a disciplinary hearing 2 weeks ago. Some people weren't very happy with my speech, so they did some investigation and they brought me up on charges. And then I talked, and you know what they did? They acquitted me of all the charges because I was right all along. So not really going to talk about that. Not the most interesting thing in the world. But I pled my case. It turns out I'm very good at that. And all charges were dismissed. I am in great standing. But what we're going to talk about is the situation. There are two situations. One in Hotchkiss, Georgia, where a mayor was interviewing a candidate. The candidate was black. The candidate was going for a job in city government management, and he was qualified, but the mayor decided, and apparently she told someone, that, town is white, this guy's black. I don't know if we're ready for that. It's a little bit too progressive.
In 2019.
Yeah, but you remember, black people, you have to understand that it was only about 5 minutes ago that black cops were even allowed to arrest white people. You talk to old black cops, they'll tell you, they're like, no, we don't arrest white people. We arrest black people. White people arrest white people. White people arrest black people. Black cops arrest black people. Black cops do not arrest white people. So, there's a whole power issue that we haven't exactly extended full power to black people. So, are we in America where black people can tell white people what to do and be right about it? And you'll say, well, we had a black president for 5 years, but 8 years. But remember, Obama's entire job, and he got elected for that job because he promised everyone that he was not going to really tell white people what to do. He wasn't going to actually advocate for justice for black people. So there's a way in which it'd be easier for Obama to be president of the United States than he would be to, be governor of Georgia, right? Direct leadership. So it's an open question whether black people who actually support black people will be trusted by white people to govern for the whole. And being a black person who supports black people, it's been a question in my life because when I get denied from power, I usually have to fight for it, and then I end up getting it because I'm pretty good at the fighting thing. But it's an issue we have to deal with. And people are calling for the mayor to resign. Mayor Kennerly, I believe her name is. You can go ahead and put a picture up. Calling for Mayor Kennerly to resign because this is employment discrimination and all of that. To which I say, I don't know if it helps if she resigns, because what happens when these people resign is they get resentful. They usually end up with a wrongful termination suit, or they definitely get resentful, and then it becomes unregulated, and their racism just comes up in unregulated ways. What we have to do is, instead of asking for Kennerly to resign, we have to assume that since she was voted in by the good people of Hotchkiss, Georgia, she's not the only one who thinks this. So what this should trigger is an institutional critique of the quality of schools, the quality of churches, and the quality of families that produce a Mayor Kennerly. Because they didn't just produce Mayor Kennerly, they probably produced a lot of other people. Her sister or her cousin, Mayor Schmetterly, right? So
Her husband,
like her kids, or her mom. She didn't come out of the womb not thinking black people were fit to lead. She was taught. So we need to actually, I think it'd be more fruitful for this to trigger an institutional critique of the cultural formation, because she's not the only one. She was elected by people of like-minded who she's probably a fair representative of, who also think this is the case. And so this is just black life.
Yep. Yeah, I was.
Before I say that, I'm going to hit the intro. Hit it.
To the beat, y'all. Yeah. Sound good to me. Never change the ways for the world or the government. If I was the president, then I would state facts. You leave it up to me, I paint the White House black and it can feature in your front. To the beat, y'all.
All right, so we're back, and we're talking about the fact that Mayor Kennerly of Hotchkiss, Georgia, isn't the only one who doesn't think that white people might be ready to be led by black people, especially black people who actually care about black people. I think white people are ready to be led by black people who don't care about black people. And that's a very good job. If you want a growth industry in America, or a good job for a young black person, Be a Negro manager. That's your job, is to be a black person who doesn't care about, who treats other black people like trash. That's a good job. You can work in any human resource department. They got like diversity offices. Like, if you're a black person who doesn't care
That's a quick hire.
That's a quick hire.
That's a quick hire.
That's a good job. And like, I mean, yeah, you just have to beat out all of the other black people who don't care about black people. And you'll probably have to look pretty good too, because you're going to be working for a jerk, right? And jerks are only going to hire good-looking black people. So that's part of the gig. Yeah. So like, if you're going to
Easy on the conscience and easy on the eyes.
Yeah, because you're applying for a job with a known jerk, and that's what the jerk's gonna want, and the jerk's gonna be like, what? Like, if you want to work for Trump, you're gonna have to look a certain way to be the black person who's in charge of telling other black people that they're trash. Anyway, if you're a black person who actually cares about black people, it's an open question whether white people are up to your leadership. I think that it doesn't matter. That's what I think, that it doesn't matter. I'm leading anyway. So that's the attitude we have to have, especially if it's a matter of right. Because if we wait for white people to be ready for us to lead, to tell them what to do, that might not come in our lifetime or our kids' lifetime, and I'm just not ready to wait for that. So we just take it and we demand it by right. That's why you need rights. That's why we need black people who talk in terms of rights. Because if you qualify for the job, you ought to be able to get the job. Doesn't matter if, and you should. And this is another thing. All right, so I'll segue into this quickly. And it doesn't matter if it makes the white people who are under you uncomfortable, because that's one thing, especially in local government, we need to get used to doing.
I'm just curious how many people have had bosses that they were comfortable working under.
Right. Right. It didn't matter. No, you needed a job, so you worked under them anyway. Right. So, and this guy was a guy, and it's even harder for black guys out there. I know a lot of black feminists don't want to hear this, and feminists in general don't want to hear this. Black guys got to make sure they don't take up any room in any job they have, because that's threatening. I tend to take up room, and I'm a medium-sized black guy. I'm not even a full-size Negro, but I take up my fair share of room, because I'm here on this planet for as long as I'm here on the planet, and I want to be free. So the question is whether the schools, churches, and families that produce this Mayor Kennelly, did they just produce her in isolation, or is she just part of an indistinguishable group of white people who think it's okay to deny jobs from black people? I think she's part of an indistinguishable group of white people who are pretty comfortable denying black people opportunity and saying, well, that's just the way it is. And I think we teach these people that, and instead we should contest that. Right? So my issue is, people get upset when I say, I think we need to dismantle white families, we need to dismantle white schools, and we need to dismantle white churches. Because all of those institutions teach white people to be indifferent to the justice demands of black people. When race is the variable, it turns them into sociopaths. It's okay to treat black people like garbage. That's what they're taught. Now, if you treat a white person like garbage, like they're taught to call the cops. They're taught to sue. They'll get the lawyers involved. They'll get the cops involved. But if you treat a black person like garbage, they're taught to think it's okay, that it's permissible. So we just need to teach them differently. We'll start there. We'll start with teaching them differently, because we don't teach them differently right now. We've just normalized black indifference. Like, if you go to a white church, they'll tell you, like, if you go to a white church and talk about racial injustice, they'll tell you, well, just pray on it, right?
That works.
That works.
Thoughts and prayers.
No, thoughts and prayers. Yeah, but if you go there and talk about like a white person issue, like they'll tell you, well, you need to get a lawyer, you need to call the cops on them. No, these are litigious and violent folks. It's just that when black justice is the variable, it's all about, well, you just got to pray on it, and only Jesus will bring racial justice in America. No, we need to take control of budgets, and we need to take control of, state-sponsored legitimate guns in service of justice for black people. So I think that's the case. And I say churches because there's this other guy, a city councilman by the name of Jim Cleveland. You can put his picture up by me. Jim Cleveland said he's a Christian, and why he hires black people sometimes and all that stuff. He doesn't believe in interracial marriage, and which I do because I'm in an interracial marriage right now, and I just believe you need to integrate on your standing up. I don't integrate on my knees. I integrate standing up, and so he would not approve. Apparently, my marriage would make his blood boil, and I do not care.
My curiosity in that is, what did that have to do with this entire situation?
Well, he just brought it up because
like, who thinks that's reasonable?
It's always on his mind. Anyway, he said, as a Christian, he thinks this, and that just means that church teaches them garbage, right? So your church, we need to do something about the white church. We need an intervention. And people say, like, oh, you can't talk about that about institutions. But you know what? White people did talk about that about our institutions. There's a little thing called the Moynihan Report that said the problem that's you still hear talking points in like everywhere in America because it was so powerful. The Moynihan Report was the Negro family and the case for national action. Big report. It was in all the papers. And all of the scholarly journals referred to it for a while. It came out in 1965, and you still hear the talking points today about how the problem with Black America isn't the fact that they were being terrorized and occasionally lynched and mostly just terrorized and left out of jobs and locked out of the economy. It's that they had single moms. Which, isn't fortunate, but you would be surprised how many black families broke up. I think my parents broke up because my dad wasn't making money. You'd be surprised how many black families would actually stay together if we could get real good jobs. Even real good jobs telling white people what to do. That's a good job. Right now, I tell them, my job at the university is telling a lot of white kids what to do, and I'm very good at it. My classrooms, my class course evaluations are very good. I'm very good at telling white people what to do, and I hope to keep that job for a long time because they need help. They need me to tell them what to do, and I'm very good at that. And I think the world's a better place for it because everyone needs to learn from black people. Everybody, the whole world needs to learn from black people, not just black people. Everybody should learn from black people. I've had enough white teachers. I think all these white kids need to have me as a teacher. And I think if Kennerly had me as a teacher, she would have hired the person who was qualified from, out of town and put him over all of the white people he was supposed to be over. So, white people learn white supremacy in their churches, in their schools, in their families, and we need to dismantle and reform their churches, schools, and families if we're serious about getting rid of white supremacy. And getting, good black people jobs. Also, we need to understand that we need to contest white supremacy. I talk a lot. I get in a lot of trouble in talking, but I also get out of a lot of trouble because what I say is usually well-researched and the truth. But we need to contest white supremacy. We can't just say well, these people are bigots, so we're just going to have to go with that. Hope time will fix it. Time's not going to fix anything. Time. All time's going to do is activate your angina. Time is allowing them to create future generations. Institutions don't die like people do. They keep going until there's a institutional intervention. And even more than that, money doesn't die like people do. Money compounds, right? So the inequalities in white and black wealth, all that racist white money is just going to compound and make their kids even more incentivized to treat black people like garbage. Because they're going to have all these ill-got money that's been compounding at interest at 6% for the last few generations. So time isn't going to fix it. Interventions are. So you need to talk and you need to say the truth and you need to actually screw up the courage to be more like me. Courageous Negro. In defense of black people. Because you can't be a black person in America without being targeted. It's black people who actually care about black people. They're the ones who get targeted. But I need you to be a black person who care about black person. And white people, I know you watch my show too. Some of you university people watch my show. Hello. The defamation suit's coming. Also white people get punished for caring about black people, especially black men. So anybody who cares about black men, you're going to get punished for it. You're going to have to deal with it. And don't stop caring about us because it's all right to be treated like people. And with respect to it's not just in Hushkin, Georgia. In Palmdale, California, give me the teachers. In Palmdale, California, you got these nice little elementary school teachers who are playing with a little kitty noose because they deal with kitties. Little kid-sized news. So you can say, well, you need to fire those teachers. I don't think you need to fire those teachers. Those teachers, you need to think about how you need this to trigger a curriculum change in California State K through 12 education and at least teacher training. You need a curriculum by me in teacher training. Let them keep their jobs. Let them be trained by me. I could do work on them in 5 days with the right equipment and my assistants. You don't fire them because they're just regular white people. This is Palmdale, California. Palmdale's funny because I always joked about the only place black people can live now in California is Lancaster and Palmdale. I wouldn't want to live there because of the weather. Isn't really of my liking. But, and like Modesto, I don't know. Anyway, so these are what we get. And we have to train a higher, better class of white people because it's not going to happen naturally.
I really want to know how many people not only saw this picture, but did not see the problem with this picture. Like, that's a whole host of white people that were probably like, oh, no, it's just...
Kitty news. Little itty bitty news. And Lancaster does have some black, and Palmdale does have black people. I think it's like a quarter black. So, and that's a lot for California. So they're probably just teaching like full of black kids in a public school. So there's that. There's going to be a short show. Think about also contesting, not being scared to contest. We have a problem here because both our lawyer and our counsel is scared to contest white supremacy. You got to contest them. Make them sue you. Make them come after you. And if you're scared to make them come after you and you're just going to keep accommodating them, pretty much you're mortgaging black wealth and black livelihood for the sake of white supremacy. You got to contest it. You got to make them come after you, and you got to make them come after you publicly. Is that it? That's it. All right. Thank you for your time. I got to go pick up my kids and go to a meeting. So I'll see you when I see you. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Bye.